grab a cup or a mat, and let's talk about 5 communication styles that are going to work against a relationship. If you want to have a relationship that works together through conflict, whether it's a romantic relationship, but definitely that, because those are higher emotional relationships. They have a more intensity to them. But also at work, with your siblings, wherever. These 5 styles of communicating are going to work against the possibility of having a relationship that really works well. The first thing that I want you to know is you have to get your nervous system to be in a place where you feel safe. It's not really possible to communicate your best if your nervous system is into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So that's another conversation we can talk about, but those are the places where we go when we're not feeling safe. And a lot of people are always in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. They're always there. So learning how to regulate your nervous system is one of the first and most important steps to be able to communicate well. When you are in a place of safety in your nervous system, then your brain says, okay, I can problem solve, okay, I can communicate, I don't have to be, forcing my side of the story. I don't have to be running away. However it is that whatever you do when you go into a dysregulated place. So you're able to do the communication part. And when you're in a place of safety, like, okay, this isn't life-threatening, we have a conflict here, we can get through it. A lot of that is rewiring how you think about conflicts. I have many clients who will say, any conflict, any conversation that feels uncomfortable, I run away from, or it's a problem. And that's all about how you see conflict and how you see yourself in relationship to other people. So that's another place we go to work on. But in terms of communication, once you see that there's a conflict that needs to be discussed, or just even if it's not conflict, just maybe a more difficult conversation, getting yourself to feel safe about it first, and then you can communicate from a place. Let's talk about what's good communication, what's healthy communication. It's a place of curiosity without taking things personally, a place where you can be in the other person's listening, so where you can actually listen from their point of view and listen to it fully without already forming your answer. So you're paying attention to yourself in your head rather than what they're saying. That's all very important. Active listening and letting people finish without cutting them off and not coming from a place of defensiveness. So that would all be good styles of communication or good practices to have. If you're not doing that, if the relationships that you have are showing up differently, these 5 styles are pretty common when people are not communicating well, okay? So the first one is emotional invalidation. It's not anybody's job to validate somebody else. A person just needs to be able to validate themselves, which when we're people pleasers and when we're focused on other people, we're in that fawn place of a nervous system upset. We don't know how to validate ourselves, and we're always looking for somebody else to. It's really no one else's job to validate, but it's not okay to invalidate. So let me explain what I mean by that. When somebody says, I feel this way, if your response is, why would you feel that way? Get over it. Anything like that, that's invalidating. A way to validate them, you don't have to understand why they feel that way, but a way to validate is, if I were you, I would feel the same way. And you can say that because if you were them, you would feel the same way. That's how they're feeling. A person can only feel and see a perspective based on where they've been in their life, what their life experiences are. So if you had their same life experiences and their same perspective, meaning you were them, you would feel that way. So that's a validating way. Doesn't mean you agree, doesn't even mean you necessarily understand. So invalidating is going to work against you. Saying anything like, get over it, what's your problem? Not going to work. The second style that's not great is projection. So that is saying something that's negative, probably that you've been thinking yourself, but projecting it onto them. Like if you know that you lied about something and you're in a conversation or a conflict, and you say something like, well, you've probably lied to me about stuff. So you're projecting onto and shifting the focus onto them in a negative way. That's not going to be great for conflict resolution, okay? The third style that's going to work against nurturing the relationship is scorekeeping. So especially if you're doing it during the conflict. So it's like, we need to talk about this. This happened. I want to have a conversation with you. And the response is, well, what about the time when you blah, blah, blah? Or for the last 5 times, I've done this and you haven't. So scorekeeping, especially in the moment of the conversation, but also scorekeeping in your head all the time throughout the relationship. Well, I'm always the one and he never. Or for the last 5 times, I've been the one to give in and they haven't. So any kind of scorekeeping is going to be detrimental, especially though when you're in the middle of a conversation and you can't stick to the issue at hand because you keep bringing other things back. Okay, the next one is resorting to name calling, derogatory comments, insulting, like, why are you always such a jerk about stuff? Or if you don't stop nagging me, you're just a nag. Things like that. Insulting somebody, addressing their character in any way. All of these communication styles come from people who are used to being in conflict or being in conversations while they're dysregulated. These are communication styles that come from being in fight, right? I'm ready for a fight, if that's where you go to when your nervous system doesn't feel safe. Flight, I'm going to deflect, I'm going to avoid the issue by bringing something else up. So these styles come from being in those places. That's why I said you need to regulate your nervous system, learn how to do that and keep it regulated as much as you can, which means when I'm feeling upset, I allow my emotions, I feel it, and then I let it move through. If you don't do that, it's really hard to communicate in a safe way. So you can see that insulting someone, derogatory comments, attacking their character, all comes from, I would say, being in fight, right? Having your sword and shield up. The last one is the silent treatment, icing somebody out, not talking. That has a lot to do with flight or even freeze. I don't know what to say. I'm frozen in this conflict, so I just shut down. So shutting down or the silent treatment, letting people know you're mad at them because you're not talking to them, but you're not telling them why you're mad at them. You're not telling them what there is for you that needs to be addressed. You're just going to let them know because you're going to be silent about it. So that's the 5th style of communicating that's going to work against your relationship. So again, the way that you see conflict, the way that you see yourself in relation to other people, the way that you see yourself as being safe. So if conflict or something somebody else says triggers you from things that you've not healed from, the likelihood of you going into one of these communication styles is very high. And if that's happening to you, if you see that over and over in your relationships, drop me a comment, put help. Put help. I'll send you a master class that I did. It's on stress and overwhelm, but it addresses the background reasons of why these things and these patterns are showing up, okay? You can have a supportive, nurturing relationship, but you got to change the patterns. Have a good day.